Fox News contributor Keith Kellogg is former national security advisor for President Trump and Vice President Pence. Good to have you here. So I just want to read this to you, that they said, the foreign minister, that China has used the drills to prepare for this invasion of Taiwan. Do you think that's what they're doing?
Hi, Dana, and thanks for having me this morning. The short answer is yes. Look, we look at China, and we should look at China as the greatest threat we've faced in the last 50 years. When you look at China, it's an adversary economically, politically, and militarily, led by a very authoritarian president and President Xi, and they've clearly got Taiwan in their crosshairs. This is a crisis that's going to grow over the next 2 years. And why I say the next 2 years is I believe that President Xi believes this is an opportunity within the next 2 years to actually accomplish something with Taiwan, because I think he sees the president being weak when it comes to international relations and national security. So the will of a nation is basically encapsulated by the leader of that nation, be it President Xi in China or President Biden in the United States of America. And if they see weakness, they're going to react on that weakness. And I think that's something we need to fear. There are three ways you can counter this. You can counter it economically, say sanctions. You can push back militarily by putting more carrier battle groups in the Pacific. We only have one right now in the Pacific, in the 7th Fleet. That's USS Ronald Reagan. Or more importantly, and I think this is the one that's key, is politically. Does it take risk? Of course it does. But this is the time, maybe after 50 years, you pick up the phone, you call President Xi and said, you know, this one China policy that we started with the Shanghai Communique in 1972 isn't working. You know, we're going to recognize Taiwan as a nation. It's a democratic nation, 23 million people. We're going back to a two-China policy. Is there risk? Of course there is. But if we don't do something in those three areas and react very strongly, I think you see China is going to react and try to take Taiwan under its umbrella.
How do you describe the America's national interest in doing any of those three things that you just talked about, especially number three?
Well, look, the reason why it's in our national interest is we have always been a Pacific power, based from World War II on. And that is a critical area for us to concentrate on. And we need to push back on China becoming a regional power, because our allies are looking at us. Japan is looking at us. The Philippines is looking at us. Vietnam is looking at us. Australia is looking at us. And if they see us moving back, moving away from China because of a fear of China, then they will gravitate more towards China. And most of the trade, over half the trade of the world, goes through the South China Sea, and it's in the Pacific area. We cannot afford to give up any of that territory, land, or influence. If we do that, we're going to hurt ourselves economically, obviously militarily, and also with the alliance.
When I listen to you, and I hear that loud and clear, and it makes sense to me. But has President Biden ever articulated such a thing to the American people? It's almost as if we talk about Taiwan, but just kind of on the periphery. We don't really want to deal with it. Our policy is a little bit unclear. It's the one China policy. It's not. But what you just laid out, if that's what President Biden believed, he could say that to the American people. Do you think he would ever do that?
No, I don't. But here's why. Look at the national security strategy of the United States of America. It's still an interim national security strategy. You are, by law, by Goldwater-Nichols, you are supposed to have a national security strategy published every single year, which lays out the vital interests of a nation. We still have an interim national security strategy, and Biden, he hasn't put one out. So we don't know what the vital national interests are, because he really hasn't expressed it in a final document. So it goes back to what you said, Dana. The answer is no. He hasn't done it at all, and he hasn't sent that to the American people so they can digest it, think about it, talk about it, and make it happen.
I had forgotten that they hadn't released that, so thank you for the reminder, and we will ask them about it as well. Keith Kellogg, thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, Dana.
Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch our nightly opens, stories that are changing the world and changing your life. From Tucker Carlson tonight.